to talk about the insight on multilingual recruitment according to Undutchables. But first of all, let's introduce ourselves. And since I'm talking, let's start with myself. My name is Marjan Stoit. I'm the Sales and Recruitment Manager of Undutchables, and I'm taking care of the northern part of the Netherlands. So working mainly from the Amsterdam and Utrecht office. I live in Utrecht, and I was branch manager for the branch of Amsterdam for 10 years, so dealing with the greater Amsterdam area. So this means I know both regions very well, and I work already 20 years, this year 20 years for Undutchables, and I'm still enjoying working in the field of multilingual recruitment and working with internationals a lot. I like it a lot. So let's go to my colleague. Hello, Emmanuel. Welcome.
Hi, Marjan. Hello, everyone. My name is Emmanuel van Houdenhoven. I am the other sales and recruitment manager for the western and southern parts of the Netherlands, which means that I am actually mainly working from our branches in Eindhoven and The Hague, where I am based. I have joined Marjan and our Undutchables team as the only French link so far, and originally as a candidate just a little over a year ago. And after returning from over 15 years, more than 15 years actually, in the USA, Mexico, and then previously London. And guess what? Before that, the Netherlands. So this is for me life in full cycle. My background is actually mainly in international business development. And I started developing my recruitment activity in the USA, in Chicago, in fact, as I supported EU companies setting up their US subsidiaries and building the multilingual teams there. Today, it is our pleasure to Marjan and I to welcome you to our first informal regional feedback. Obviously, we are not economists, so this is a very humble exercise on our part, sharing our experience and based upon what we see, what we notice, what we hear from our clients, from our recruitment partners and network at large. Which actually leads me to our program for today. In the coming hour, thank you, Marjan. In the coming hour, we will mainly focus on the regional impact of the current situation on our candidates and our clients' sectors and vacancies, the emerging trends, both from a client and from a candidate perspective, and ultimately with the idea to extract a few current tips that we hope may be used as opportunity by you today listening to us, and also by our clients and connections at large. We will conclude our talk with a Q&A session. And don't hesitate, of course, in the meantime to send your questions as we progress through the hour. And since this is a premiere for us, please be indulgent and don't hesitate to comment, to enrich our content also with your feedback and your experience, particularly if it doesn't go in the same way as what we are telling you today. A note before we start, to put this presentation together, of course, we have used our own data and also data from Google Analytics, feedback that we have received from our regional partners and clients, statistics and figures from CBS and ING, Rabobank, among others. Of course, also the Intelligent Group and our partner on Recruit, and the local impact monitors updates from the respective provinces and regions. So now let's start and let's go to slide 4. Thank you, Marjan. Since we are specialized in multilingual recruitment, we thought we would start with our basis, the number of registrations of multilingual candidates with Undutchables, that is on our Undutchables website. And to get a little bit more of an impactful look, we selected a short first 2020 quarter, in reality really a 2-month bracket from mid-January to mid-March. As you know, the start date of the lockdown period in the Netherlands, in comparison with the figures from the actual lockdown period from mid-March to mid-May. And then in turn, comparing these figures with the same weeks from 2019 and even 2018, which is not which are not shown on this graph actually. What we had already noticed, first and foremost, is that the 2020 first quarter figures were actually up from last year. plus 31%, and actually even plus 47% from 2018. And although we have obviously seen a decrease, actually minus 40%, in actual number of registrations between the pre and post-lockdown weeks, it is a lot less significant if you look at the second graph, so the bottom graph, with the number of registrations from the same period last year. It's only minus 17%. And actually, in comparison with the 2008 figures from the same period, there's a 0% difference there, just 9 candidates less. So this is totally insignificant. In fact, we also noticed that what we lost in quantity in number of registrations, it seems we gained in quality. In other words, less traffic on our website, as we will see with Marianne's slides in a minute. I'm sorry, Marianne, if I stole a little bit of your thunder there. It still means more targeted candidates who register onto our website with the direct purpose to apply to our vacancies. A lot more reactivity, therefore, and efficiency from these candidates, with certainly at the moment a degree of urgency in their search. Following this higher conversion rate on our website, let's now talk about the data concerning international traffic to our website, as shown by Marianne on slides 5 and 6.
Yeah, what can we see on the stream of candidates on the map since the lockdown this year on the 14th of March until the 15th of May, comparing the same period in 2019? On the map, you can see that we have a big reach into the world, and that it shows that international talent from all over the world reaches out to Undutchables to orientate for the job in the Netherlands. And we have a database of around 60,000 candidates coming from different countries, EU and non-EU, speaking multiple languages and looking for a career in the Netherlands. Of course, this is a great opportunity for the internationally focused companies in the Netherlands who are looking for multilingual candidates. Talents and who are looking for talent that is scarce in the Netherlands. When comparing these two maps, it's hard to see the differences in volume per country since the lockdown to Corona. Then we go to slide 6 for a better insight, and then we can see where do they come from and what's changing. Now here an overview on the volume in the stream of candidates per country in percentage since the start of the lockdown on the 14th of March and the 15th of May, comparing the same period in 2019. And what does it tell us? Since the lockdown, there is a travel restriction and other regulations in place, of course, and the internationals are looking for a job in the Netherlands are being forced to postpone their plans and maybe even change their plans for a short notice due to the restrictions. This effect we can see in this overview. There are less internationals coming from countries such as Belgium, Brazil, France, 40-60 splits compared to last year, Germany, 40-60, Hungary, Ireland, a big drop, Italy, Romania, Turkey, and for other countries, the volumes are more equally divided in 50-50. On the other side, we see an increase of volume of internationals reaching out from countries such as Greece, India, Philippines, Poland, and the USA shows a slight increase. The degrees from talents from countries like France and Germany, both minus 20%, is important for us to keep an eye on, of course. Generally, most of the roles we have open require, beside fluent English, speaking fluent French and German. This can be explained because the Netherlands, of course, is doing a major part of their total international export on the following countries. On number 1, Germany, it's 21%, then Belgium, 16%, then the UK, 9%, then France, 7%, and Italy, 5%. Now, the lockdown is not only affecting the global businesses and the amount of vacancies going down in the world, but of course also affecting the talent stream that is constantly reaching out to the Netherlands from abroad. It goes hand in hand, of course, that when we have less vacancies on our website, that causes less traffic from different countries, and that is less. Beside that, the people who are just orientating to start a career in the Netherlands are also in these figures. So meaning that there's less talent in general reaching out to globally and reaching out to the Netherlands, and see that there's less talent coming from specific countries like France and Germany. For us, this is a sign to continue to reach out to these talents who are looking for life and continuing their career in the Netherlands. We do this by keeping regular contact with our network, with live sessions, Q&A sessions, webinars, social media like Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And of course, we do our utmost best to maintain the multilingual vacancies we can offer to our candidates. We think it's important to always maintain the international multilingual workforce in the Netherlands on a high level, as we as an expert in multilingual international talent, we do our utmost best to do our part. Of course, we can't wait for the developments in this pandemic to go better again and see the lockdown restrictions are slowly being released, and that we stay healthy, and that globally oriented companies in the Netherlands are in the need of multiple multilingual talents again. This is an insight of the website traffic of the talent per country. Now we can have a closer look to the stream of candidates who already made a decision to live and work here. Emmanuel?
Thank you, Marianne. So yes, we just looked at the website traffic figures comparison between 2019 and 2020. And we are now coming back to the comparative volumes of newly registered and available candidates in 2020, pre and post lockdown. So the biggest increase to be seen are coming from German and Dutch multilingual candidates, which is a big difference with what Marianne was just talking about. In both cases, plus 3%. Traditionally, German and generally speaking European candidates, I mean English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italians, represent the biggest national pools of our Undutchables candidates. And this is true at any point in time, but even more noticeable at the moment. Our CBS, the Dutch Statistics Bureau, shows that direct and indirect exports to Germany represent 6.7% of the Dutch GDP, which may explain at least partially the language focus on German candidates, at least in South Holland, Brabant and Limburg. But also for indirect exports, ultimately reaching Germany and transitioning through Belgium and France. And in parallel to this intel, we also noticed that some of our clients are clearly concentrating at the moment on their proximity markets, with a definite focus on Germany, the Benelux, France, and the UK. The increase, on the other hand, in Dutch multilingual candidates from 6 to 9% is somewhat new, to some extent also logical, of course, in the current circumstances. And local candidates as a whole, without a job now, or junior candidates, will want to optimize every one of their skills, including, of course, their language skills, in the search for a new job. And as we all know, living in the Netherlands, Dutch candidates are by definition multilinguals. And this is actually great news for our Dutch clients who also need Dutch among the language skills that they require. We also see a clear increase in talent available from Portugal, Poland, Spain, and the UK. Again, mainly EU nationals, as you can see on the blue map, to whom the Netherlands actually still represent a country with a solid economy and available jobs. This is great news for our recruiters also, ultimately, because they now have the time to interview and do what we call the intake interviews with our both international and European candidates, and get a clearer picture of where the candidate is coming from, whether they have already relocated, and if they have, where they are currently based in the Netherlands. And before we start talking about the regional sectors, a side note regarding the pool of talent from India. We will talk about it in our trends and signals in a little bit, but as you can see, the flow of international candidates from India is important, and it has also remained fairly stable in volume, despite the current corona crisis. These candidates are mainly recently graduated students. For the most part, they are highly qualified, often engineers, in their search year visa in the Netherlands, and they are currently looking for job opportunities. We will now look a little a bit further into the data on vacancies by sector and by region, starting with Marianne. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the Netherlands in general and then your regions around Amsterdam and Utrecht?
Yes, of course. Now, before we start looking into Amsterdam and the Utrecht region, let's have a look into some figures in the Netherlands as a whole. From the start of the lockdown, research shows that vacancies have been put direct on hold by 20 to 22% of the companies. Direct on hold. In the meantime, new figures show from Indeed that there are 36 less vacancies open at the moment comparing at the same time last year. That says something about vacancies. It's a big drop. Suddenly we seem to move from candidate market, driven market, war on talent, to a market with less opportunities and maybe even an employer-driven market. It makes it more competitive for the job seekers instead of competitive for the employers. But also recent research shows that the war on talent still goes on. You know, the talent that is scarce remains scarce. Thus in general, many candidates are available again and will search for the right opportunity. 31% of the vacancies are partly on hold and 47% not. That gives hope. So, and it's good to see, to find out where that is. Industries like IT, logistics, government, food, pharmaceutical, digital entertainment, video conferencing, together with e-commerce, cloud and digital-based services are still in demand. And they need more people. That you can also see in our statistics for IT and logistic, food and education. On the other hand, there has been a vacancy freeze of 76% within communication and media in general. And a huge drop of vacancies has been registered within tourism and hospitality, as you can imagine. In our own statistics, we see in some regions a small drop in the communication and media sector. And this can be clarified due to the fact that the language-related roles in that field are still needed. We have a sector called travel and leisure as well, and indeed we see a big drop as well. Roles that in January are in demand are technical roles, IT, engineering, care, wholesales, online order management, and accounting. To go back to the figures, we especially have a look, of course, to the effect on the multilingual vacancies open in the business in the different sectors. Pre and post lockdown, what we currently notice as a specialist in international recruitment marketing is the following. For Amsterdam, we see a big drop down in vacancies in companies looking for international sector of consumer goods, pharmaceutical, finance, and of course, travel and leisure as well. Same as the trend in the Netherlands. For the Amsterdam, there's an increase in IT, logistic, food, education and training, everything online, of course, nowadays, and the consultancy sector. Also, that is in line with the general post-lockdown trend in the Netherlands. What is actually really specific is for Amsterdam is that the IT roles are highly in demand, but in recent research shows that 23% that is still recruiting for IT is for special technical roles that are in demand. The increase shows really clear on ag tech, agricultural technology, media and IT and entertainment, but then really IT roles in that, and all the roles about big data. Those are very in demand. Countries and companies want to gather and analyze data, of course, for obvious reasons. Also specific for Amsterdam is the big drop in demand of general fixed IT contract, 70% less. Of course, that's a big figure for Amsterdam, being the hub for tech companies, IT talent and careers. Of course, Amsterdam is also the hub for startups and unicorns, and they are struggling as well, and definitely not in demand of fixed contract IT specialists. In Utrecht, also shows in our statistic a big drop for multilingual vacancies in consumer goods, chemical, pharmaceutical, food and travel and leisure. The CBS, the Central Agency for Statistics, research shows that 80% of the companies in Utrecht sees a decrease of profit, and 60% even think they will fire personnel. That's not so good. And source from UWV, the Dutch Unemployment Benefits Agency, shows the biggest drop in more detailed for Utrecht in the following sectors: professional services, rental, hospitality, culture, sport, recreation, aerospace, and the flower business, followed by consumer goods, non-food, metal, and technology industry, other professional services, car trade, and passenger transport. On the other hand, research of Rabobank, HQ is of course in Utrecht, says that Utrecht region is in general less affected for economic effects than north of Limburg of Amsterdam, because normally the effect on macroeconomical level is the strongest in the region where you have a lot of industry and trade. Utrecht is more specialist in the professional services rather than trade and industry. On another positive note, we see in our figures in the Utrecht region an increase on the multilingual roles in industrial. With us, that also includes agricultural companies, technical, when it's technical, IT, education, training, and consultancy sector. The research of UWV shows in the Utrecht region a growth in the sector care, public transport, and postal deliverers. That's not really so much office related often, so for us, you don't see an increase in that. What I find interesting is that in this research shows that it stays fairly stable in Utrecht in the sector education, financial companies, information and communication, retail, food industry, and real estate and energy and public sector, and the fruit and vegetable. Now, we do recognize that in the daily vacancies that we see around us. So maybe it's now good to go to your region, Emmanuel. Are you ready?
Yes, of course. Thanks,
Very
Maya. So here on slide 9, I will actually be concentrating on western and southern parts of the Netherlands, and more precisely on South Holland and Brabant for the pre and post-lockdown 2020 periods. In these regions, as some of you may know, our branches are respectively located in The Hague and Eindhoven, hence the titles of those graphs. In fact, for South Holland, our current vacancies concern The Hague, Rotterdam, also Leiden and Gorinchem, and pretty much spread over the region. And it is about the same in Brabant, in and around the main cities of Eindhoven, Den Bosch, Breda, and Tilburg. In both regions, we had noticed a surge in the vacancies at the beginning of the year, actually, and obviously some of these vacancies were immediately put on hold when came mid-March and the lockdown, particularly from our clients in horticulture, fresh food, finance and education in South Holland, and our tourism and of course industrial clients in Brabant, who have been taking a direct hit from the Chinese production drop. At the same time, and in the following weeks, we have seen a clear and sudden increase in vacancies from totally other sectors. So our consumer goods and retail clients, particularly for the home entertainment, do-it-yourself and electronics branches in both regions, as well as the pharma, medical, food and logistics sectors. And of course, these sectors are sometimes common with the sectors that Marianne was just describing. So in general, less active sectors in 2020 and a greater disparity in volume of vacancies between the sectors, at least for us. Clearly, the transport, paper, chemical, textile and metal industries have been hit the hardest in Brabant. And the Brabant Impact Monitor has just relayed a 156% increase in unemployment in the region, unfortunately. South Holland has an international economy. It represents 23% of all Dutch exports, and as such has been directly impacted by the restrictions on international trade. This is combined with an obvious drop in the creation, not only in new businesses, estimated by the innovation quarter at -40%, but also with the startup creations or the creation of subsidiaries for international companies coming to the Netherlands. A lower freight volume at the port of Rotterdam, -9.3% in the first quarter. ING has estimated a 30 to 40% decrease in revenue for the port and logistics sector in April and May, and an overall 30% decrease for the industry sector. Which is actually leading to a little bit of good news, because it's expected to lead to the urgent digitalization and robotization of the sector, and hopefully some new vacancies linked to that. And of course, for our region, the agri and horticulture sectors seem to have suffered the most, with an estimated 5 billion euros in losses from the sector, recently estimated. For the floriculture alone, 2.2 billion. And to put this into perspective, the CBS had given a figure of the total worth of the sector in 2018 of 5.4 billion. So it's a little bit of a balance at the moment. The hiring freeze is nevertheless starting to lift off in some areas, particularly in South Holland, where we see a lot of open multilingual vacancies in traditional sectors for the region. So the non-profit international organizations for The Hague, and also some financial and AGF, fruit and veggie sector vacancies. But for the most part, for our industrial clients, vacancies have been cancelled or filled internally in both regions. At the same time, although we're just talking about it and it's been clear in the news, both regions have been hit hard by the corona. Brabant in particular, since they were the first to be touched by the pandemic in the Netherlands. But and even if it seems paradoxical, we see a lot of active vacancies on LinkedIn and the main job boards at the moment. Direct posts from the companies, and there are a couple of reasons to this. First of all, a lot of companies have used this period to upgrade or even accelerate their online presence on job boards for direct online promotion of their vacancies, obviously. And most intel will show us a big difference in volume between agency and company vacancies. And for the most part, these company vacancies have been placed with the added bonus to attract job seekers at the moment. And mostly they do not need to be filled urgently, which is the biggest difference with the vacancies from agencies such as ours. These, particularly at the moment, need to be filled urgently by our clients. And actually, aside from that, in Brabant, I often come across clients who have barely been working from home. In companies where typically the office jobs are located at or near the production site, everyone kept on coming to the office to work, which may also mean at some point, and already we can see that, an increase in activity and therefore a need for new employees. So ultimately, new vacancies in those sectors. In The Hague, on the contrary, at most international companies, office positions are still done remotely. And it seems that the larger companies, and even the smaller ones at this point, are letting their employees choose between coming back to the office or work remotely or do a little bit of both and work in shifts pretty much until September. And these companies are actually at the same time simultaneously interviewing and recruiting their candidates online. So the entire process hasn't stopped there. In both regions, for the open vacancies, there is also something that we have noticed lately, a focus on multilingual starter positions, which are international candidates typically difficult to source, and even more so at the moment, simply because all universities have been shut down, at best with courses and exams online, but no real visibility of what is going to happen pretty much until September of this year, hopefully. So the junior candidates, the new German, French, Spanish graduates who may have been starting to look for a job as early as the summer 2020 are definitely less active this year. And of course, looking at the new unemployment figures, even if they did have a job and a temporary one in the Netherlands, they are most likely to have lost it. Out of the 40,000 newly registered workers for unemployment benefits in the Netherlands, 25,000 of those are actually under the age of 25. And according to the figures from the Intelligent Group and Job Digger, high school graduates have been hit the hardest with a 28% drop in vacancies. And this is actually a perfect transition for you, Marianne, to maybe start talking about the up and coming trends that we see in this new order of business.
Yeah. Let's change the slide. Yes. Yeah, the trends that we see for the business is not to wait and lean back, and but have a good look at your processes within your company and use the extra time there is due to less business. Of course, you need to keep track on your actual market developments and set actions to keep the current employee market, keep an eye on it. Stay on top of your strategic HR policy and recruit even now. Your employees will otherwise lose engagement or discuss the implementation of your HR strategy with your third party. They might have HR services like us and part-time managers or HR managers for hire. It's really important to stay on top of the strategic HR at the moment because there's a lot of work for them at the moment. Re-evaluate the technical tools you use to do recruitment in your company. Make use of your data like we do today. Improve your skill set, invest in yourself, make sure you fit the new digitalization of traditional roles like HR and customer service. Train your colleagues to be ambassadors. Of course, that's not new, but it's really important now. Be good, create good employers branding content, build a good and solid brand. Make sure you're out there. Work together towards employee engagement. Do we have stay happy interviews? Do we have exit interviews in place? Do we have all the things in place that is nice for the employee experience? It's very important. Make sure you're not the last in line when recruitment picks up again. Act upfront, build up a pipeline and be prepared that employees can leave their key positions when the market picks up again. You should not think that people will stay in their key roles. People will get on the move again when the market picks up again. And of course, with pipeline building, this is something we do as well. So it's very important to inform your third parties. Comes to the next point, inform your third parties like us and share your thoughts. They can assist on building up a pipeline and keep their network fit with matching talents for your company. Invest in your hiring managers, discuss the ideal candidate experience and learn what the plans are and what they need. Make sure you know exactly what you're looking for. More and more scarce talent is available. I just said that there's still a war on scarce talent, but there is of course some available. And it's even if you have a cash flow problem, hire freeze problem, whatever, make sure you get the talent out of the market right now. Work on your vacancy page on the website. Is everything up to date? Check your application procedure, make sure it's a remote, the new way of working is as perfect as the normal other way. Now, this is the new normal, and make sure that your application procedure is very good. Rewrite your vacancies. Mention really well that working flexible hours and remote working is possible. People search on those words. They want to work remote and flexible hours. Something we always had a plan to do. Also for us at Undutchables, all of a sudden remote working, we had to do it. Gives us a great boost into the future to look at it. How we're gonna leave it or not. Keep it in place or not. Organize your onboarding procedure. Make a proper plan for new employees. So I have a few tips for that. Remote onboarding is essential, of course. Streamline all activity and balance the information stream. Organize one-on-one time with your managers, with the managers they need to talk to. Organize a buddy. Have good online communication tools in place like Teams, Zoom, Skype, Doodle, you name it. Let it not delay your recruitment process. We see companies have a hire freeze right now for this reason. We see other companies have a real hire freeze because they have a cash flow problem. Well, the online boarding problematics should not be a problem and should be there as soon as possible to guide the new employees to the new job. More trends that we see and that will continue is of course active sourcing. And it's an effective way to identify and address passive job seekers. That's already done all the time, but it will continue. Recruitment via referrals, direct poaching, reaching out to candidates of competitors. Of course, check if there's no clause. Using third parties for sourcing and building pipeline. Also handy to use third party when in need of a flexible contract solution or direct hire. Using third parties recruitment agency as a flexible accelerator when you are in need for quick and good talent. And therefore it's good to inform us ahead, even though you're not using third parties yet. Let us know what you're looking for so we can make sure our database pipelines and the talent is matching with your question, with your future question. In general, we will work more remote, split the week at 50-50, 30-70. It will continue like that. Using remote tools will stay after the lockdown. Yeah, imagine if we all can go to the office, I think online interview and online onboarding will continue. And maybe 4 days working is the norm. We'll see. There's a big, also big growth of platform for vacancies, where vacancies and talent can meet each other for specific sectors. Some of them are free and some you can pay for, but this is also a new development that is coming. And recruitment in general, since we had this scarce talent, we had to be creative anyway, but now it's even more focusing on skills and not so much focus on skills per sector. Skill set can be used in different sectors. Talent can and need to reinvent themselves. That's really important. And what have you to say about the trends, Emmanuel?
So just one little thing before going on to the opportunities. One of the trends, and no one really knows whether it will be a lasting one or not, that we also start noticing is the deglobalization, or as my friend Victoria from the BOEM recently put it, a slowization trend. And it basically means a shift in focus as companies are prioritizing on proximity markets. I mentioned it earlier. And at the same time that they are doing that, obviously, they are reshifting their needs and their language requirements with an increased demand for German, English, French, occasionally Dutch, of course, profiles, and or the language of origin. Sometimes it's the language from the head office, or the management language for international companies, or simply to English. And voilà, so that was the last of the trends for the trends section. And finally, when we prepared this presentation with Marianne, we actually noticed that some of these trends could be translated into opportunities for you, listeners today, or our clients in general, in adapting to this change environment and in sourcing their new employees. So Marianne, do you want to start letting us in some of these opportunities?
Yeah, some signals that we see in opportunities, if of course they're taken into account, is the highly skilled knowledge migrants. Undutchables is an active referent and can employ highly skilled knowledge migrants. It's good to know that when you employ at the moment a highly skilled knowledge migrant and the salary falls below threshold, in case the employer makes use of the temporary emergency bridging measure for sustained employment, the NOW, then the employer must inform the IND within 4 weeks under the compliance duty to inform the IND. The residence permit of the highly skilled migrant will not be revoked if they temporarily earn less due to that reason. That's fairly good. That's really good, of course, because it's good that they can continue their career in the Netherlands and that they don't get a stop on their visa. So, and you have some more information about the search visa students, right?
Yes, absolutely. And completing what you were saying about the HSM, we talked about it earlier in our in-house talent pool slide. We have a large database of candidates from India and more generally from outside of the EU, often in their search year, immediately following the bachelor, master, doctorate studies in the Netherlands. And these qualified young multilinguals are available for any position starting at the Dutch minimum wage, which is one of the often misconceptions that we have coming from our clients. This means that in this case, in the search visa students pool, there are no salary requirements during their search year visa. So, and since their plea to the Dutch government recently to extend their search visa period, which is a 1-year fixed period, because of the extraordinary circumstances was not heard, they are currently urgently looking for new positions. And this talent with a search year visa can work for both companies who already have an IND sponsorship and companies also who are not yet IND sponsors. And for the latter, either directly or via a temporary or a secondment contract through an agency like ours. Towards the end of the search year, the employer then will need to apply for a highly skilled migrant visa, still with a lower salary criterion, and thereby sponsoring the candidate. Actually, not still, it's a new salary, lower salary criterion, thereby sponsoring the candidate. Undutchables is an IND sponsor, as most of our clients know, and we therefore have a covenant with the Dutch Immigration Services, which means that we can provide for that smooth transition from the search year visa into the HSM visa, the highly skilled migrant visa, with the lower salary criterion. And as long as we have assisted with the employer with the candidate selection in the first place. This last part is actually important because it's a newly rule coming from the labor law from January 2020 in the Netherlands. The highly skilled migrant lower salary criterion is in 2020, it's 2,424 euros per month, excluding holiday allowance. So the search year visa during his search year, is a search visa student during his first year, no salary criteria. From the moment that he moves to a highly skilled migrant visa under the lower salary criterion, it doesn't need to earn more than 2,424 euros per month. In other words, and that's also super important and often not realized by some of our clients, those HSM lower salary criterion will remain in application as long as there is no residence gap on the side of the candidate, meaning as long as the extension of the validity for the residence permit has been requested before it expires. So you will never need to actually conform to the salary requirements typically asked for an HSM under or above the age of 30. You can stick with the basis of 2,424 euros per month for as long as there is no residence gap. By the way, search visas and HSM visas are both residence and working permits in one. And of course, this lower salary criterion will also remain in application once the candidate turns 30 and or changes employer, which sometimes can happen under the standard HSM visa, and it means then an upgrade in salary. It is actually a little ironic as together with the Dutch institutions who are our partners, and I'm thinking the NFIA, the National NFIA, for my regions, the Rotterdam partners, the Hague International Center of Business Agency, the BOEM in Brabant, all these institutions are doing everything they can to attract these young talents to the Netherlands and to study. And in turn, we ultimately want them to remain in the Netherlands to work. And we now have a great pool of highly qualified candidates who risk leaving the country because they are not able to find sponsors to stay and work here. So this is, a great opportunity. One of the additional opportunities that we see, of course, and we mentioned that earlier, is the outside of the box recruitment of young talent. The ones that we were talking about earlier who have been laid off from sectors who have been hit by the corona crisis first and foremost. I'm thinking the restaurants, the catering, events, culture, tourism sectors, and the temporary workers, as the younger temporary workers as a whole. As we saw earlier, they represent actually 100,000 newly unemployed out of the 160,000 total unemployed today in the Netherlands, or newly unemployed today. And these young candidates represent a fantastic pool of young talents, of course. They are ready to adapt to their next professional challenge, and they are also ideal for the starter positions that we were referring to earlier in the presentations. Hopefully, then we're going back to the trend that Marianne was talking about. It will require for our companies to concentrate on interchangeable and universal skills rather than academic background, maybe. And generally speaking, we find that at the moment, the expatriate workers who are in our network are more reluctant to move from job and country with their family. So this may also represent a window of opportunity for local companies to gain access to these HSMs or highly skilled migrants in the Netherlands. Still in the international pool of candidates for us are the independent workers, what we call here in the Netherlands the ZZP'ers. They represented in 2018, according to CBS, 12% of the workforce in the Netherlands. I think they are even more important now. And as a direct impact of these last few weeks, possibly in some cases because their partner has lost his or her position, or they themselves were no longer able to secure a steady income, 17.6% of them are currently looking at salaried positions. And the figure of 17.6 came from the intelligence group actually yesterday from their webinar. Typically, they are by definition independent, very versatile in terms of profiles and skill sets, and adaptable. And of course, when they are our candidates, it also means that they are multilingual. Last and not least, which is something that has nothing to do directly with us, the borders reopening. Earlier today, Marianne mentioned in a mapping of the candidates, the EU and non-EU candidates, the temporary impact, delay really for EU candidates still planning to come to the Netherlands to work as soon as national borders and within the Schengen area at least will be reopened, and occasional bans and restrictions, and I'm talking about the travel restrictions there, will be lifted. The good news is all neighboring countries, including France, are set to reopen their borders from June 15. And even in the case of countries like Germany, where the border was never officially closed. So this means that the active European candidates that we see now coming onto our website, registering with us, applying to vacancies, will be able to finally to relocate and start their work quickly from mid-June onwards. And of course, on a side note from us here at Undutchables, our recruiters have been actively interviewing these candidates in order to be as reactive as possible once the request will come from our clients. And last but certainly not least, I simply wanted to come back quickly to the increased footprint in our agency for multilinguals, including Dutch. These often trilingual candidates, and including Dutch, English, and a third traditionally European language like German or French, are extremely sought after all the time by our clients, and they are now available. So this was really our last tip for you. We both want to thank you for listening to this first webinar. I am hoping that the presentation has brought you some valuable insights, possibly even given you some outlets for current and future vacancies. Our marketing department, so thank you Kirsten and Quinn, will share the slides and recordings following with this webinar. And we are also currently looking at maybe follow-up webinars with some of our partners. So stay tuned. And we are now going to open the Q&A session. Marianne has all the comments, so she has looked into the questions and comments, and there's still time. So don't hesitate to send any additional question that you may still have. Thank you.
Yeah, I have one question here. And it says, if we support recruitment for candidates from outside the Netherlands, but looking to migrate to the Netherlands. And yeah, we can answer that one live, right? Of course, so we do help candidates looking for a job in the Netherlands. We do help them with the recruitment, even if they still live abroad. Our recruitment consultants are they do very in-depth interview with the candidate to discuss what the plans are, to discuss where in the Netherlands they would like to work, and to discuss everything thoroughly, the wishes, and do that nowadays, of course, in an online interview. So it's very good if you sign in online that you mention in a separate email what your plans are, what you're looking for, and then you can set up an interview with one of our recruiters. But yes, we do definitely help with the recruitment, also for candidates who are, of course, were living abroad still. And of course, you saw that in the figures as well, that people start first looking when they still live abroad, then live here. In the past, it was 99% coming over for their partner. Now it's 70% partner, and the rest is just globally orientating. Can be education, can be because Netherlands is so nice, can be opportunities. So it's very much more various reasons coming here, of course. So it's I don't know any figures, but it's definitely a big part from still living abroad, and another part is already living here because of living with that partner or studying here or other reasons. Yeah.
And from the moment, I would just simply add, from the moment that we are talking about wanting to migrate to the Netherlands, it's usually not just about the job, and which is why on our website we have a mindful of information regarding maybe just some fun facts that you need to know about the Netherlands, the way things are being done, the way we do business in the Netherlands, and also links to websites like the IND, how to proceed to get the resident permit to come to the Netherlands. And then if any of this information is not enough, then we are always available for more information, of course.
Yeah, we do many in the past live CV workshop, how's the Dutch market, how to prepare, and now online sessions. So we definitely support in recruitment as a whole. And yeah, it's always good to drop questions with us, because we deal with, of course, multilinguals, internationals, and it's for us very important to inform how the Dutch market works and how to be successful in that market, really.
And you never know. I mean, Undutchables is a mid-sized agency, but I think there's about at least 15 different nationalities of us there. So you may just come across a recruiter who's of the same nationality as you, and it's always nice then to be able to talk in your own language.
Yeah, that's correct. That's a good one. I see there are no more other questions. Any more questions for anybody? Ask them now.
Well, don't hesitate. You have on the presentation, you have all of our contact information, so don't hesitate to reach out. I see that it's already it's 5 to 3. I can't believe, Marianne, how good we've been on the timing for this.
Yeah.
But it was great. I hope it's been helpful to you all, and I guess we hope to see you very soon again.
Yes, thank you for listening, and I hope it was very informative. And like Emmanuel said, hope to see you with our next sessions, and we will prepare and do our best to make an informative session again.
Next one. So from The Hague, and Marianne from Utrecht, and our marketing from somewhere nearby Rotterdam. So we see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.